So I wanted to bring a 1-minute clip just to show you something which exemplifies, I think, the quite kinds of questions that I am struggling with in my research. As in the cultural sector, in museums and collections, everything has become digital, but we're always aware of the things, where those things have come from. Not to pose a kind of dichotomy between the digital and the analog. So I just want to show you a 1-minute clip, which is a ceremony that we held at UCL and in New Zealand at the same time in June 2014. It's a virtual pōwhiri. Pōwhiri is a Maori ceremony of welcome, in which when you arrive in a new place and you go to the community centre, which is the welcoming space of the community, at the meeting house of the community, you're welcomed onto the marae by the people of that place. And we held a ceremony at UCL to try to activate and reconnect a cloak in the ethnography collections to a community back in New Zealand, having had no connection to any kind of source community for a long period of time. So I just want to show you this. And we were filming it in both countries. So it's evening time in London and morning time the next day in New Zealand. Yeah. Thanks, Antonio. We created a digital environment to connect using traditional Skype, FaceTime, ICTs, these two communities across time and space. And what you heard there was both the kind of fantasy of this perfect connection across this vast distance, but also the problems of the technical limitations of the platforms and the fact that in New Zealand they're on cellular connection rather than broadband. So you heard that cutting out sound all the time, which provoked in me this intense anxiety because I kept thinking, it's not working, they can't hear anything, I can't hear them, it's not happening. And I think this, and so I wanted to just use this as a starting point really for our conversation, which is also, I think, to exemplify how I situate myself within digital anthropology, which is really about what happens at the level of a kind of ethnographic exploration, where you have to think through the ideologies, the discourses, the utopian visions, the theories of the digital in practice, very much through an experiential register, which is trying to capture what people are encountering at a particular moment in time and space, and really connecting that kind of ethnographic experiential focus to a more nuanced understanding of the digital as geolocated, as a complex infrastructure with multiple contingencies and dependencies. And really to understand how our expectations and experiences are situated within that context. So what you see here is ICTs, FaceTime, technology in a very particular standard way, but you also see the way in which that's layered with different levels of cultural meanings, whether they're cultural meanings of the interaction designers that were working with us who genuinely had a kind of firm, very religious belief in the power of connection through digital media, but you also have the cultural kind of sensibility of the people in Taranaki, the Te Matahiapo research group that you saw, that you can see there on the screen, who, for them, don't mind so much whether the sound is quality or is perfect, because they're layering a Maori cosmological framework of wairua, spiritual connectivity across these digital communication networks. And so when I worried afterwards, but it didn't work, but we couldn't hear, they weren't interested. It wasn't about working or not working. It was about the intention and the energy, the kind of cosmic energy that was being channeled at this moment. So there was a real mismatch, I think, between these competing discourses of what digital technologies actually are in practice and how they are experienced. And I suppose it starts a whole series of problems for anthropology as well, because how do you do ethnographic research in two different parts of the world simultaneously? How much is our experience of the digital really a question of issues around representation, and a lot of that is visual and auditory, but how much that can mask actually other qualities of the digital which are invisible. And how can we link that kind of focus on invisible infrastructure, on global connectivity, and still retain an ethnographic sensitivity, our commitment to ethnographic methods, and really how does that really raises the problem of scale, I think, for anthropology, which is something that I know, which is why we wanted to talk together at the beginning, because I think that's the fundamental question that anthropology is having to ask itself when situating itself, both methodologically and I think philosophically in relation to the digital. But so I wanted to show this. I think it's important to materialize what we work on, to bring other people into the conversation as well, to register that our theories are always being worked out in practice, that our understandings of technology are absolutely filtered through our experiences, that there's a phenomenology that is really important to all of this as well, and that it's geolocated. It's not the same in Taranaki, New Zealand, as it is in London, even when we're experiencing the same moment together.